And we're back. I want to thank Andy for coming and spending part of his evening with us, and informing and giving us. Andy's going to be leaving the area in mid-March. The council probably going to throw a party. Look, Andy is a real trooper, a real winner, and keeps them on top of things. Going to miss him, but he'll be back and forth, and we'll stay in touch with him. So I have this pile of stuff over here, which half of it I'm not going to get through again. I just thought that Brian Pope was back in the news again. He pleads not guilty to the latest round of charges. How is he still city marshal? Suspended. Oh, he's suspended. That's right. They did suspend him. Lafayette City Marshal Brian Pope has entered yet another written plea of not guilty a day before his arraignment for his newest Lafayette Parish grand jury indictment of 17 felony counts of malfeasance in office. Each count accuses him of taking without legal authority funds in various amounts. Jeez. Here we go. Count 1, $4,668.60. Count 2, $1,289.56. Count 1 from 9/13/28 indictment. Count 3 is $7,898. Count 4, $1,552.47. Count 2 from 9/13. Count 5, $7,486.30. And the list just goes on and on. I mean, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. In October, Pope was found guilty on 1 count of perjury and 3 counts of malfeasance in office stemming from public records dispute with the Independent. After his felony convictions, Pope was suspended from the office of city marshal until all his appeals are exhausted. If the convictions stand, Pope will be removed from office. Michael Hill, a former federal magistrate and police officer, currently is serving as city marshal for the Lafayette. I know Mike, and my wife worked for him some time ago. State Police Commissioners under probe. And I haven't talked about the state police in a while. It's been a while. 3 members on the board that enforces state police rules are under internal investigation over possible illegal political donations. My, didn't we talk about that a year ago? Allegations that come just a few years after 3 other members were ousted under similar circumstances. The 3 commissioners, including the chairman of the 7-member board, are accused of collectively contributing more than $5,000 to political campaigns during their terms, either personally or through their businesses. State law and board rules prohibit commissioners, along with all state troopers who are classified as state employees, from participating and engaging in political activity directly or indirectly. Those constraints, however, have become a recurring issue for the board. In 2016, 3 former commissioners resigned amid an investigation that they have participated in political activity during their terms, namely thousands of dollars in political donations. Okay, the commission, which acts as civil service board for state police, has seen significant turnover in recent years as it's been steeped into controversy, most recently amid accusations that the former commissioner, Calvin Braxton, abused his power to fix tickets. Oh, do you ever get a ticket fixed, T? Not me. State Police Commission Chairman Ulysses Simeon Jr. and Commissioners Jared J. Caruso Ricky and Chief Harold Petrie Sr. were accused at the board's monthly meeting on Thursday of making donations that violate the same rules the board is tasked with investigating and reviewing for troopers. And the details, they all say they didn't do nothing wrong. Go figure. Okay. And I'll tell you what, I know this man, Lafayette Schools Superintendent retiring. Aguilar to stay on board until contract expires in May. Is that a good thing or a bad thing, T? I liked Aguilar.
I think he did a good job with what he had.
Yeah. I mean, I sat at meetings with him when John Waite was giving presentations. We had some interesting conversations. Parish School Superintendent Daniel Aguilar is retiring after 4 years on the job, effective when a contract expires in May. The move surprised school board members who now must decide what to do with the vacancy in a year when all 9 board members are up for election. But it won't be 9, it'll be 5.
School board's different.
No, they have to match. They have to match the districts in the city.
That'll be interesting.
I mean, I haven't seen that in writing, but I've heard them discuss that.
Well, the deal is they're not just the city, they're the whole parish.
Well, then maybe it'll be 10.
Yeah, it'll be either 9 or 10.
I gotta find out about that. All 5 board members who spoke with the Avenue Friday, Lachelet, Angel, Santani, Elroy Broussard, and Dawn Morris, praised Aguilar and wished him well. Lachelet and Angel said they would prefer Aguilar to accept an extension through the end of the next school year. That's a whole year. Man's ready to retire. After the new board members take their seats, Lachelet said the school board could have done a better effort in trying to persuade Aguilar to stay. Lachelet said the vacancy is particularly challenging because superintendents cannot serve for longer than 2 years after the expiration of the terms of office of the school board members who hired them. That means the next superintendent will need to be comfortable with a short-term contract. Oh, I see what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
They want to wait till after the election, then they can serve whatever, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So Santani took a different view, suggesting that the board's status won't impact the search process. In any case, he said it's a little premature to be digging way deep into and about how the search will go. Broussard said Aguilar's timing is logical. It's easier for him to retire now and feeling a sense of satisfaction instead of just trying to get to know the new board coming in and starting all over again. Lafayette's district performance score, the measure the state uses to assess school districts, rose in Aguilar's first year and remained steady over the next 3 years. He served as superintendent in St. Mary Parish, and I know quite a few people from St. Mary. They were sad when he left because he took that school district and brought it back up to a high level. He spent a combined 15 years as a school chief executive in both parishes. He wrote in his resignation letter, "I will cherish the many personal relationships formed in both St. Mary and Lafayette parishes," Aguilar wrote. We actually, if I remember correctly, when I had all the representatives last year at the Patriots meeting, one of the things that came up were these statutory dedications.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to tell you what, I met this lady, Hewitt, representative, I believe she's from North Louisiana. And with eyes on the budget, Louisiana lawmakers review statutory dedications. Louisiana legislators have been quietly toiling away for more than a year on an exhaustive review of funds in the state budget that are locked up by law. These go back 70s. And it say in the article, and I'll go through the article, most of it anyways, They don't even have to prove that they need the money today. This was done to fix some problems back then. The review of the state's nearly 400 statutory dedications, often referred to as stat deads, in discussions at the state capitol, ultimately will prompt a second round of legislation during the session that begins in April. The legislature approved the first round of eliminations earlier this year. We're doing a deep dive into funds that for the most part haven't been looked at in a very long time, said Senator Sharon Hewitt, a Slidell, she's from Slidell, Republican and co-chairwoman of the review committee. It feels like it's an endless list. Statutory dedications which legally require government to spend a certain amount of money on a specific budget line each year lock up more than $3 billion in the budget. This is money that it was approved, it's law, and they don't have to prove whether they need it. There's no accountability whether they still need this money or what they use it for. Over the years, they've been added into law to direct money to pet purposes outside the regular budget. We look forward to going through each one of these items, said Rep. Rick Edmonds, Republican, Baton Rouge, the Budget Subcommittee's other co-chairman. As the review has gone on, lawmakers are finding outdated funds. Some haven't had money directed to them in years. Outdated funds, some haven't had money directed to them in years. Some seem to contradict each other, that they are recommending for elimination. Others are offering opportunities for more information and justification. Some of the funds were created 30 years ago, and perhaps justifiably so at the time, but so much has changed. I praise these people for really looking at this, because one of the people that we had last year basically said it was impossible to change them, didn't he? And I didn't agree with that. Nothing is impossible to change if done correctly. And that's what they're doing.
I think I was quite verbal on that too.
And yeah, very, very much so. And it was shocking to me because it's somebody I thought I had figured out. Well, we all learn. As the review is going on, lawmakers are finding outdated funds. Some haven't had money directed to them in years. Some seem to contradict each other. They are recommending for elimination. Some of the funds were created 30 years ago. During a hearing Wednesday, the committee reviewing the funds one by one found 5 that were ripe for, I like the way they put that, for ripe for elimination. I like it. One was funded through a fee, which is technically a different classification in the budget, so the committee will recommend that it be redefined. Another was outdated and hasn't been used in years. And the state treasurer's office recommended that one be converted to an escrow account because it's funded only through donations. You know, a lot of people didn't like Schroeder, you know, but I'll tell you what, he's doing a pretty bang-up job as state treasurer. And I figured he would. There were other things that him and I didn't agree on, but we fixed that. I think we have many funds that are categorized as statutory dedications that should not be, Hewitt said. Representative Tony Bacala of Prairieville, Republican, on the panel said, we ought to think through these and just start calling them something else. But the committee also has recognized that some of them exist for a reason. During Wednesday's meeting, the committee learned that a fund established to take in money from the state settlement after the Deepwater Horizon oil spill is the best way to receive and spend the money. The committee recommended no changes to that fund. Many members talk about how informative this whole process is, Hewitt said. The state's chief public defender, Jay Dixon, also revealed that funding for indigent defense will need an infusion of money from the state in coming years to keep up with the need and drop in local funding, largely due to decreased traffic tickets. Decreased traffic tickets? Don't be putting ideas in these people's heads. Don't drive through Maurice over the speed limit.
They got rid of the traffic cameras.
Huh? Oh yeah, traffic cameras. That, you know, my dang GPS, they need to update it. I hate driving around Lafayette if I have that thing on. There are no speed light deals. But anyways, the committee also learned how various funds relate to each other. There's a direct correlation through many of these funds that are deeply, in some cases and indirectly some cases, competing with each other. Statutory dedications are wonkish? It says I think they misspelled something. WONKISH.
Well, there's wonky, I guess you can have.
Wonkish. It's a wonky state politics topic. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to look up that definition of wonkish. Tension in recent years as the state cycled through budget shortfalls. I don't think we have to have a constitutional convention to address the issue. Yay. Constitutional things are very, very dangerous. We can do it through a slow and painful look at them one at a time. Hewitt said she sees the latest effort as a necessary to making the budget process more open. Awesome. After our discussion last year, and one of the people that was on that discussion vehemently saying there was no way to do away with that, you sometimes wonder, what was his deal in that?
But he got an earful that night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's one nice thing. And I'm going to go back to that. March 14th. Mark your calendar for March 14th. Because that's when I'm trying to get the reps together and do that. And Gene Mills with the Louisiana Family Forum said he'd like to sit in on that. And I think that'd probably be a good idea to have him kind of like a moderator or something. Let's see if I had any other local stuff over here. I'll tell you what, T, let's you got what's his name's video, Higgins? Yeah. Let's cover that right now. Okay. On the wall. We're gonna play Clay Higgins put a video together for the wall. And I looked at it, and T looked at it, and it's pretty much a 5-minute simple explanation of taking care of business with the wall. I'm going to play it now, and then I'm going to read things, and hopefully I'll get back to where I do some things on the wall issue, but I don't want to go through the night without playing that video. So let's go ahead and run that now.
I'm Congressman Clay Higgins. I serve on the United States House of Representatives Homeland Security Committee. Let's talk for a moment, if we may, about our national sovereignty as it relates to border security, specifically our border with Mexico. It's important to understand that although for generations we had a soft and porous border with Mexico that worked just fine. I was born in 1961. I'm the 7th of 8 children. My parents were parents like yours that during the summertime would load the kids in the wagon and drive back and forth across the border at will. This worked fine for generations. But this was before criminal cartels controlled 100% of the Mexican side of our southern border. This is a manifestation that has crippled law enforcement's effort to control our southern border. They traffic three things: humans, primarily for sex trafficking, drugs, and weapons. Untold billions of American dollars in cash get shipped south, and crime gets shipped north. I have scouted the entire southern border, 1,954 miles, from Southern California to Southern Texas. Talk to the boots on the ground, what exactly is needed. There exists about 700 miles of fencing, physical barriers. This has been approved twice by Congress in the past, by Democrat-controlled Congresses. Primary fencing went up. Some years later, secondary fencing went up in the effort to control those areas. And what we need now is about 900 miles of improved physical barrier. The 700 miles is already there, needs to be enhanced and improved, and an additional couple hundred miles or so. This is the information from the boots on the ground. I've spoken to these guys. The entire border, by airplane, by helicopter, by boat, by four-wheel drive vehicle, by horseback, and on foot. I've scouted the entire border. What is the role of a physical barrier? It's not designed to be an impenetrable wall or fencing. The mission of Border Patrol is to detect an illegal crossing. This is where technology comes in. We have technology to look past the border, you understand? And these guys know what to look for. Then to delay or deter that crossing. This is where a physical barrier comes in. This is where enhanced physical barrier, 900 miles of it, which is what we need. This is the purpose of that physical barrier. Not to stop an illegal crossing that's already been detected by technology, but to delay it and deter it. And may I say that anyone that thinks that it's easy to defeat a 30-foot wall with a 40-foot ladder has never climbed a 30-foot wall with a 40-foot ladder. So once an illegal crossing has been detected with technology and then delayed or deterred with a physical barrier, collectively referred to as the wall, then the mission of Border Security is to respond to that illegal crossing and investigate and make arrests as appropriate. No one is talking about building a Great Wall of China across 1,954 miles of our southern border. No one intends to put a 30-foot wall on top of a 200-foot cliff. God already put a 200-foot wall there. The border security agents and law enforcement professionals that are in charge of maintaining the sovereignty of our nation on our southern border know exactly what they need, and that's precisely what we intend to give them. So I ask my fellow Americans to reflect upon these things. The Army has a saying. I'm a veteran. We don't hate what's in front of us. We love what's behind us. We love America and our sovereignty. America has one of the most generous and compassionate immigration systems in the world. But we must maintain our sovereignty and protect ourselves from criminal influence. America needs enhanced physical barrier along 900 miles of our southern border. We must maintain the security and safety of the citizenry that we serve, and that means we're standing for wall funding.
Back. That's Clay did an excellent job explaining that in a very calm and peaceful way, and pointing out the factors that why we need the wall. The deal is, real briefly on this, Pelosi and Schumer and the Democratic idiots, they're not worried about you or I or anything. And if I get to it, I have some examples of why we really need that wall. Now I know that, what do they call them, angels? something angels that went to Schumer and Pelosi's office and refused to meet with these mothers who lost children to illegal aliens. One of them was like deported 6 or 7 times, came back and murdered him. Clay sent out a pretty honest thing here. Sent out this flyer, the 2018 annual report. But what caught my eye was it honestly says on here, this mailing was prepared, published, and mailed at taxpayer expense. That's on the flyer. And I don't ever remember reading anything that said that. Higgins said, Clay Higgins representing South Louisiana. In the 115th Congress, my office helped deliver major wins for South Louisiana. We passed 12 significant pieces of legislation, secured critical funding for infrastructure projects, and helped more than 2,000 families overcome bureaucratic red tape heading into the 116th. Our fight for South Louisiana values remains the same. Our mission continues. Priorities for the 116th Congress: creating jobs and growing the economy, securing our border and building the wall, promoting American energy dominance, standing up for pro-life values. And by the way, speaking of pro-life values, on Saturday, St. Edmund's Church here in Lafayette, on Congress and Ambassador, on the corner of Congress and West Congress and Ambassador Caffrey, we're having our pro-life walk starting in the church at 8 o'clock. The choir will be singing. At 8:30 we'll have a prayer service, and at 9 o'clock we'll start the pro-life walk from there to St. Mary's and then back. So and I know the weather's not looking good, but if you can make it, please come out. Funding for local infrastructure projects, protecting our Second Amendment's rights, reducing the size and scope of government. Well, I think Trump's done a pretty good job recently of reducing the size of government. Oh boy, that'll get me in trouble again.
I hear there's only 5% still in the EPA.
Yeah. 800, is it 80,000? 880,000?
880,000.
Non-essential jobs?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? What does non-essential jobs mean?
It means we should be rolling back a whole bunch of duties back to the states.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to see anybody lose their job, but I still don't get over the word non-essential. Well, listen, I want to do more on the wall, hopefully, but I think I got some important stuff in front of me. We knew that this was coming. We knew that the Democrats taking over the House were going to go crazy. They want the one world, communistic, socialistic world. And H.R. 1, write that down, H.R. 1. And I'll try and put out a link to that. Democrats act to strip state powers over elections. This is what the communists do. The communists control everything. They want to control this. If you thought midterm elections had problems, wait until you learn about Nancy Pelosi's plan to terminate state control over American elections. You heard what I said? Terminate state control over American elections. Only dictators do that. You agree, T?
Yep.
Only dictators terminate state control over American elections. Democrats in Congress have announced their top legislative priority, and it isn't health care, immigration, or taxes. Instead, they want to centralize power over elections in Washington, D.C. H.R. 1 is a number one on the legislative agenda because it's a number one priority of House Democrats, leftist groups, deep-pocketed dark money, and those who use election process rules to help win elections or at least cause chaos. I'm very disappointed with this last election. It is a proven fact. Now, the group that did this, oh, God. 22 states have proven voter fraud, and nothing was done. In my eyes, the Democrats didn't take over the House. They cheated. How can you say that, Jim? It's a proven fact. 22 states. Here we go again. This bill is a 571-page dreamscape of wild wishes and federal mandates on states. The Constitution decentralizes power over American elections and puts states in charge. H.R. 1 would undo that. I can't even imagine this making it through the Senate or Trump signing it, although he did sign 4174, which I'm very disappointed about. That's the data mining thing. Okay, decentralization promotes individual liberty. That don't make sense. When power over elections is centralized, it is easier for the power to be abused. When power over elections is decentralized, no single malevolent actor can exert improper control over the process. That is precisely why Democrats are so eager for D.C. to have more power over the elections. Here's the real kicker. H.R. 1 has 218 co-sponsors. I bet they're all Democrats. It forces states to implement mandatory voter registration if someone is on a government list, such as receiving welfare benefits or rental subsidies. Then they would automatically be registered to vote. Few states have enacted this system. Here's the problem with that. The list always contains duplicates and errors that states, even with mandatory voter registration, frequently fail to catch and fix. In other words, there could be people on that list that aren't alive, don't receive subsidies anymore, ta-da, voter fraud. But in this case, it would be legal voter fraud. H.R. 1 also mandates that states allow all felons to vote. Currently, states have the power under the Constitution to set the terms of eligibility in each state. H.R. 1 would also force states to have extended periods of early voting and mandates that early voting sites be near bus or subway routes. Wonder what that's about. While purportedly designed to increase participation, early voting has been shown to have no effect on turnout. The advantage of early voting for Democrats is that it expands the election period and exploits the natural ground game advantage Democrats enjoy with activists monitoring the polls. Watch our trending videos, it says. H.R. 1 also undermines the First Amendment by exerting government control over political speech and undoing the Supreme Court's Citizens United decision. The proposal also undoes Supreme Court decision in Huston, a case arising out of Ohio. The court ruled that federal laws known as motor voter, you ever heard that? do not prohibit states from using a voter's inactivity from triggering a mailing to that voter to see if they are still living at the location. H.R. 1 would undo that ruling and prohibit states from effectively cleaning voter rolls. Wow. H.R. 1 mandates same-day voter registration and would obliterate state registration periods. And there's more explanations to this, but we'd be here all night if I do that. H.R. 1 limits the ability of states to cooperate to see who is registered in multiple states at the same time. Democrat congressional nominee Wendy Rosen was able to vote for President Obama twice in the same election in Maryland and Florida, a federal felony, because Maryland does not participate in interstate cross-checks of rolls. Wow. H.R. 1 would nullify state laws that permit election observers to work as partners with election officials to file a formal challenge to a suspicious voter registration. Election watchdogs have been essential players in ensuring that the dead and ineligible do not vote. H.R. 1 would criminalize protected political speech by making it a crime to discourage someone from voting or to use deceptive practices in politics. It also would bar states from disallowing vote by mail. The biggest prize in H.R. 1 is to restore Justice Department approval powers over state election law changes known as pre-clearance. The pre-clearance power got a call. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah. Listen, you were talking earlier about the elections. Okay, the election dates for this year is March 30th, which will be the tax election, and October. State elections are always held in October, not in
October
November.
12th.
Federal elections are in November. We're in October.
There's actually 6 elections this year.
I don't doubt that.
There's one in April, the end of April, and one in May.
Now that one has been shifted to March 30th.
Oh, really?
Yeah. As far as I know, there is no election. And the reason it's in March now is because it did conflict with Festival International, and there was enough people calling in, and they moved it to where it used to be in March.
Well, but the May 4th one is on. And that is with the Crawfish Festival and everything else. But I appreciate that. I'm going to check on that March 30th thing if they moved it from that. Because here's the thing. The state has to be the one to approve the changes. So that mandate to change that date has to come from the state. Local governments cannot change that date. I'm pretty sure that I'm correct on that. The state, the state sets the dates. That's done in Baton Rouge. So okay. I'll check on that. I'll see if I can find something for next week. But I do appreciate you calling with that information. What I'm going through right now is just.
I know, and I hated to disturb you because
that's very, okay.
But I figured I'd get that in.
What that? No, I appreciate that. All right, sir.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night, Jim.
You too.
All right, bye.
Interesting. I got to check that out because only the secretary can change that. That has to come from there, huh? Yeah, well, maybe somebody requested it here. But that would be surprising to me because they like that election during the festival. Okay. H.R. 1 also limits the ability of states to cooperate to see who is registered in multiple states. I read that. H.R. 1 would nullify state laws that permit election observers to work as, get this now, as partners with election officials to file formal challenges to a suspicious voter registration. In other words, no more poll watchers. Unbelievable. I mean, people, you got to understand, this is all about socialism and communism. This is about the total control in D.C. Bigger government, more control. That's what the Democrats are about. I have a thing here. Is this what you want? I'm going to read this. Is this what you want? Because this is where this is headed. Did you know 60 years ago, Venezuela was ranked 4th on the World Economic Freedom Index? Today, they are ranked 179th, and their citizens are dying from starvation. This is not made up. You just can't make this stuff up. In only 10 years, Venezuela was destroyed by democratic socialism. And that's what this is. Wake up. The biggest prize is to restore the approval of powers over state election law pre-clearance. I started to read that. Is the power that unites them all. Pre-clearance gave radical bureaucrats at the Justice Department voting section, where I used to work, the power to micromanage every single state election law behind closed doors. Pre-clearance isn't about civil rights anymore. It's about raw political power disguised as civil rights. Meanwhile, the usual array of political and interest groups have rallied in favor of the proposed federal power grab. An open borders racial interest group plainly puts H.R. 1 in the context of a larger policy struggle. The official title of H.R. 1 is a bill to expand Americans' access to the ballot box, reduce the influence of big money in politics, and strengthen ethics rules for public servants and for other purposes. I don't think, did you get that out of that, T? That I can see big money with H.R. 1 controlling a whole lot of crap. It's the other purpose. Senate Republicans need to understand they must kill this federal power grab bill. Scary. Very, very scary. And we need to be talking and calling to our representatives. This next one, it don't stop, people. They have to control. They have to control our elections, and now they want to add something else to control your kids. Pelosi's Equality Act could lead to more parents losing custody of kids who want gender transition. Here we go. Americans have long understood that children are best cared for by their parents. The state can only intervene in the family when there is a demonstrable evidence of abuse and neglect. Have you ever seen pictures of China, Cuba, Soviet Union? Don't they all wear uniforms to school? What did we start doing in recent years? Huh? Wearing uniforms to school. I mean, I'm not making light of that, but I didn't have to wear a uniform when I went to school growing up.
See how you turned out?
Look how I turned out. I guess I was all right, sort of, if you know what I mean. But you see, those are the simplistic things that we look at. I mean, China, Russia, Cuba, other countries, their kids wear uniforms. Everybody's uniform. There's no, when we went to high school and dressed, now some of the teachers weren't too appreciative, but we were individuals. We don't have individuals today. Our kids got to dress the same way to go to school. Interesting indoctrination. Okay, back to this one. I don't have the, for some reason, I don't have the number on this. Maybe it doesn't have a number yet. But it's called the Equality Act. Last year in Ohio, a judge removed a biological girl from her parents' custody after they declined to help her transition to male testosterone supplements. The Cincinnati Children's Gender Clinic recommended these treatments for gender dysphoria, the condition of being distressed with one's biological sex. When her parents wanted to treat her with counseling instead, the county prosecutor charged them with abuse and neglect, while transgender activists and pro-trans doctors compared their decision to denying treatment for asthma or even cancer patients. Wow. But now one of the House Speaker Pelosi's top legislative priorities, the Equality Act, could give transgender community a vice grip over the medical profession, and it could open the floodgates for lawsuits against doctors who don't fall in line with transgender ideology. The tragedy in Ohio could be repeated in families across America. This Equality Act, it's like turning the law into a sword against doctors. The transgender movement wants to dominate the field of medicine, and to do so is threatening doctors and hospitals with penalties. Some states have already passed laws to Pelosi's Equality Act in New Jersey and California. Go figure. Transgender activists have sued Catholic hospitals for discrimination on the basis of gender identity. We've seen this battle right here in Lafayette in the last year, and it's still going on. Pelosi's bill would add sexual orientation and gender identity to the 1964 Civil Rights Act, making hospitals and doctors across America vulnerable to costly litigation if they don't follow the medical recommendations of the transgender movement. It would turn anti-discrimination laws, which was meant to protect disenfranchised minority groups, into a coercive sword to threaten doctors into submission to transgender ideology. Does transgender ideology make for good medicine? The American Psychological Association Manual of Mental Disorders classifies gender dysphoria as a mental illness. Research shows that 75 to 95% of children with gender dysphoria who go through puberty without any transgender treatments actually become comfortable with their bodies. Bingo. This bill goes on and on and on. I mean, expediting a bad trend. In the cultural and political climate, doctors and courts are more and more likely to seek to exclude parents from life-changing decisions about their children. In other words, what I just read is video on Trump. Yeah, I'm gonna do one more thing here. We got time, right?
You got 1 minute.
Pardon? To run the video. Real quick, I just wanted to thank the Iberian in New Iberia for a great newspaper article that they did on the Acadiana Patriots. And we're gonna run a video with Mr. Trump. I think it's important for everyone to understand that this man is living up to what it is, and it may run out and we may end the show with it. And if we do, God bless you and America.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another four-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up. The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe. They will lie, and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever is necessary. The Clintons are criminals, remember that. This is well documented, and the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back. I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefit of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family, instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks. Who would have thought? I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
We're back. I'm gonna tell you what, we finished up the night with that. I'm so proud of that man. I'm not 100% Trump, and I don't agree with everything that he tweets or that he does all the time. But you know what? He loves this country. He loves America, and he wants us to get back our country and get it out of the hands of these fools that want to make it a one world UN based country.